coming back in with crew.
Hey, black screen.
Oh no.
He's fighting Varther.
That 600 is moving.
As I can.
Yep, 600 is on our ass.
Yeah.
No shot.
I'm overheated.
I'm hitting it. Yep. Yeah, I think he's running away.
Yeah.
Yep. He's running.
Well, here's the freelancer miss crew. Let's get him too. Bitch, I will ram you.
Shit.
Bye. Bye, Felicia. And
Right,
didn't even
Varther's needing
damage.
some backup.
Yeah, alright, let me try and break loose of this fucking 600i.
You got him?
I rammed him! Oh, man.
He was asking for it, man.
Why, oh why do you do this? You griefers. Rah. Because we're testing the ships. Stir up a little trouble in local, get people to come after you, shoot the guns, test the thing out. What you're supposed to be doing right now, because we're not actually playing the game, we're testing it. That's what we do. Anyways, the Hammerhead. Taking it out, looking for fights, looking for trouble, almost fully crewed. I think at one point we had one turret that was unmanned. We had a lot of fun, obviously. I mean, that's the best part about this kind of testing is it's a lot of fun to blow things up. It is. Now, what was the takeaway from this? We learned a few things, but we also took away what is missing from the game that needs to be there to form a much more informed opinion. One of the big problems in the current state of the PU, and it's a problem that isn't something that's like, ooh, it's CIG's fault. You know, it's not something like that. It's because of where we are in the game. A lot of the items that you might want to swap onto a ship or whatnot, if you get them, you put them on your ship explodes, you don't get them back. Now, you can do some things to kind of jockey that around and get some items back, but in general, you lose a lot of items, and a lot of these, ship components have a very exorbitant cost, especially when you're talking about a ship like this, like the Hammerhead. So in general, you tend to take it out stock. I mean, you could really heavy duty farm credits to equip this ship much differently. But the problem is without a sense of permanence, any mistake, any disconnection could result in the loss of the ship, the loss of the components, without 100% guarantee that you're going to get them back, thereby nullifying potentially hours of work. So with that limitation in mind, all you can really do is kind of look at the core idea of the ship and look at how you're using it, and then try to form a much more informed opinion as to how to make it work better. What can you do better? What could we as players do to better enhance the situation? I, for one, learned that I never want to be in the rear turret again. It was the most unexciting turret in the ship. Though, there may be some piloting issues with that. This was one of the things that we kind of discussed because, walking away from this experience wasn't a case of, oh yeah, we totally blew up a whole bunch of ships, we're cool, heavy metal, bleh. No, it was more of what could we have done better? Looking at the ship, dissecting what we had done, and then saying, I think we could have done this better here. I think we could have done that better there. ship and ship components is something that I think is going to come much later. Once these things are much more nailed down, I think worrying about that discussion a little too much too soon is unproductive. Really, I think that what you can take away from it is, you know, how you're handling the situation. What are the mistakes that you're making? And where do you think that you can improve on your performance? And I think that was really the most valuable thing that we took away from this experience. Now, of course, there were some people on Spectrum who disagreed heavily with what we did. And, you know, we disagree heavily with what we did as well, but not for the same reasons. We walked away and we said, you know what, we really were not managing the power systems at all during combat. We should have been doing that. We should have dedicated people managing those systems, shields, engines, weapons, coolers, so on and so forth. Things like that. That's something that we need to do better next time we take the Hammerhead out, which will probably be next Saturday. We need to be smarter about how we handle certain situations, how we, manage the ship's positioning. Of course, the head-on ram attack was a very spectacular part of the evening, but we didn't handle the situation as well as possible. I mean, for myself, honestly, I was looking at it and I came back away from the whole thing and I was just like, I shouldn't have been sitting in a turret. I should have been sitting in a seat somewhere in the ship where I just could have filmed all the action from the exterior and gotten a better idea of what was going on around us. That was, I think, my major fault in this was, hopping into a turret. I shouldn't have done it. I should have been on the exterior of the ship, kind of viewing the action overall and watching how things unfolded. So from an internal player point of view, I think those are things that we can look at in the future and things that we can improve upon. These are things that, we, have decided there are places where we've been weak and we need to improve. And that's kind of why you do things like this, right? You kind of go, you test it out, you go, okay, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. This seems to be a little bit troublesome. Let's try it this way. That's where tactics and strategy begin to evolve from. Not the idealized things that people come up with when they see a JPEG and they go, ooh, I have to have that, but the real practical applications in game. I think that's the most important part. When we transition from JPEGs to, in this case, MPEGs, we have to be critical of what our ideas are and what we thought we were getting into with these ships. It's an important part of the journey. Is, you go out, you buy the ship, oh, I can use it to do this, and I can use it to do that, and maybe I can do the other thing, and oh my god, maybe I can turn my Caterpillar into a carrier if they just make a few little changes, blah, 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 blah. We've all, been down that road. But I think that the most important part for a player is kind of saying, okay, this is what my intentions were when I bought this ship. Does it fulfill those intentions? And, I think that the Hammerhead is a very strong contender in a lot of ways. But in as much as players have to kind of make that leap, I think CIG has to make that leap as well. And they have to realize that, what their intentions with the Hammerhead were and what the result was. There are some mismatches. There are some issues with situational awareness. Possibility of, one of the scum members, Monolith, suggested a CIC or at least a fire control office where the cafeteria is. Don't think that that's a bad idea. I mean, it could potentially be something that's a little overpowered, might make the Hammerhead a little too effective. But I find myself very in favor of that idea. In general, the lack of an armory and that big gap in the middle, that's, once again, that's, designing as an FPS level first and a ship second when FPS within a ship is probably the least likely scenario for a pilot. Getting boarded is probably not going to be something that you're like, oh, this is going to be great for when I get boarded. It's like, how do I avoid that in the first place? And yet that is, the determining factor on how the ship's layout is created. I think that that's kind of flawed logic. So that's going to be, I think, an issue. I don't think that the ship really needs a massive rework or anything like that, but I think that when you put a price tag like this on a ship, and you kind of have a responsibility to kind of up the ante a little bit, and I feel that at some point this ship is going to have to go back to art, and it's going to have some of these issues rectified. And I think these are issues that are worthy of discussion within the community, because yeah, it's a pretty strong ship right now, so you might say, oh well, good enough. I think that there are still some blind spots with this design, and I think that they should be resolved. Beyond that, though, I have to say it was a lot of fun. It was enjoyable to play. Certainly, as much as we've discussed now certain issues with the design, there were issues in gameplay, issues in command and control, issues for us as players, things that we can do better, things that we can improve upon. I feel that beyond some minor quality of life changes to the ship, I think that overall the Hammerhead is in a pretty good place. It does need some work, but I think that the biggest thing that afflicts it right now is the lack of basic facilities like an armory. I think that that's the biggest issue with the ship. Is that a catastrophic must sell the ship now? No. But I think that it is going to be a problem that as more and more players get out there, and as we get into a much more stable universe where the usage of this ship is going to go up and up and up, and it's going to become less of a novelty and more of something that players are using much more often. I think that that is really going to be something that comes to the fore, and that CIG is going to have to tackle. So I think it's better to kind of nip that one in the bud before it becomes a real issue when players are going like, God, I've got nowhere to store my armor and weapons. What were they thinking? So that aside, overall, a great experience in the Hammerhead, and some really great information and testing that came out of it. So still very bullish on the Hammerhead. Still very excited to use it in combat and to use it again, and hopefully next time to get some much better footage. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and these videos are going to continue to be a little bit sporadic up until a point where I am going to be moving, so I'll do my best to try and get content out as regularly as possible. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.